Call to order the City Council regular meeting for the City of Wyoming, Minnesota, October 18th, 2022. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Member Luker, Member Onstad, Member Schilling, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Member Schilling, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance as a former veteran.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, open forum. Open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are on or may not be on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research and future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional and respectful, courteous manner and refrain from any use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. Right now, we just have one person signed up, Mr. Babbitt. If you can come up and state your name and address, please.
Ann Babbitt, 26200 Glen Oak Drive, beautiful Wyoming, Minnesota. So I'm coming up, take one more crack at the city putting some policy or process in to follow up on the quality of the street projects from the city engineer, WSB. Thought a lot about after last time when you said you thought they did a good job. They've been doing this since 2006. And I guess, you know, if I hadn't lived through it, you know, I went and saw and was on all the processes on the pre, and I came to the meeting when Mr. Erickson presented the end product, and it sounded like it all went great, except for I lived it. And, you know, I'm not saying you should get rid of them, I just think there has to be a process. I think next year, the process or the plan is to spend, what, $3 million, and no oversight on that $3 million.
Mr. Babbitt, I'm sorry, but you don't know that there's no oversight. So, and I'm just going to say, we've gone over this. You may finish, but this is the third time you've been up with that. So I'm willing to listen for another 2 minutes, and then time is up.
I was told the first time that there was not any process or procedure for following, and I guess none of my neighbors saw anybody coming out and checking it. I don't know if they did or not, but I don't think there is, and I think it's a big miss. I am giving up. Ours is done. It's not going to change anything. I guess I'm up here trying to speak for people in the future who are going to get their roads and streets done, and I guess I would like them to have a better experience than me and my neighbors did.
Okay.
And I guess I can't think of I guess I've never worked in the public sector. I can't imagine any company I ever worked for spending over $1 million and not having meetings afterwards, what went well, what do we need to change, different things like that, and having oversight. And I guess it just baffles me. So.
All right, so noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to come up and speak? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 1. What?
On number 12, the feasibility study, is it possible for us to get copies of that?
Mr. Sykes is asking for a copy of the feasibility study.
We can get a copy of that.
Isn't it number 13 though?
Thank you.
Number 13.
Yeah.
Number 13. Okay,
I was
thank
like,
you.
wait, what?
Yeah, number 13. Okay, thank you. And that was Gary Sykes requesting for that information. All right, number 1, consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for October 4th, 2022. If there are no comments or questions, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's going to be that night again?
Nope.
Okay, so a second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Consent agenda number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Does a council member wish to pull anything from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull number 5, please.
We'll pull number 5. Can we have a motion to approve 2, 3, 4, and 6?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. We have a second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So approved. Number 5, to consider Resolution 22-1091, a resolution approving the purchase of equipment from Uline in the amount of $16,455.
Okay, I just have a couple
Councilmember
questions.
Yeager.
Are you gonna take them?
Yes.
Okay, fine. It's more pertaining to the dog waste stations?
Correct.
Are they going to be in every park?
We have 11 parks that I was why I had 11 on there.
Okay,
And probably closer to a trail that's or walkway in the parks.
okay. And there's gonna be one in Ashton Park, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay, cool, because I noticed there was a lot of dog poop. Rob sent me the picture last year. And then how is this going to be, how are you gonna tell the public? Are you gonna put it on Facebook and everything? Are you gonna tell?
As part of our MS4 permit, so we're gonna educate everybody, probably Facebook and some other stuff, about the dog waste stations.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
are you gonna put on Facebook, hi, we got now dog waste stations?
Correct, that's
Use
part of
them.
one of our requirements.
Okay, and are these dog waste well, when are they gonna be put in, and are they gonna be emptied throughout the winter?
Correct, when we blow the trails, we
Well-
empty them out.
The thing was, last year, when walking through Goodview, the dog waste kept piling up in the garbage cans.
Oh.
Till spring, and then, ew.
No, and they get very heavy. So,
Yeah, then they get very heavy, and they're all frozen, and so I was wondering if this is all going to be emptied
Correct.
along the way.
Yep, that's all in our new permit.
Okay, cool, that's all I had.
Okay, so number 5, Resolution 22-1091, a resolution approving the purchase of park equipment from Uline in the amount of $16,455. Member Yeager, do you want to
Oh,
make
yeah,
that
move
motion?
to approve.
Okay, we need a second.
Second.
Second by Member Schilling, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Receipts of reports of officers, boards, commissions, and department heads, number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Does anybody wish to pull an item from those numbers? No? Okay, we'll move on. New business, number 12, to consider resolution 22-1092, a resolution adopting the City of Wyoming Park and Trail Master Plan. Mr. Sachs, are you?
I will be taking this.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Madam Mayor, council members. So I'll just go over a little bit of background on the master plan again. So it was like a 10-month-long planning process that began with a kickoff meeting to discuss just the overall vision, goals for a overall park system plan for the city that we would follow for the next 10 to 20 years to meet the needs of our community. A needs assessment was conducted with WSB to identify how our current systems were working and functioning and what our residents wanted to see in our parks. And then we did assessment data with community feedback using social pinpoint, social media, going to city events and gathering that feedback. And that all kind of came together in this master plan. At the August Park Advisory Commission meeting, we presented the draft plan to the PAC and they gave some feedback and they created a vision statement for the master plan. The following day at the August 3rd City Council meeting, we presented this draft plan to council. There were a couple of suggested changes. We double-checked census numbers. We made sure everything looked grammatically correct. And then we presented a final draft to the Park Advisory Commission meeting last month. And they had no changes and they are recommending adoption of the Park and Trail Master Plan. So with that, I'll take any questions and we're looking for adoption of the master plan and looking to use that document to guide the future of the parks for the next 20 years. Thank you.
All right, yep, all right, we'll start with Member Luker.
I have no questions. I reviewed this when I attended the Park Advisory Commission meeting. And I think it's a great document. I think it gives a scope and sequence for how the Park Advisory Commission will want to make improvements in the parks. And so I'm really pleased with the end product.
All right, Member Yeager.
Yeah, it's a very nice plan, I like it. My only concern is how to pay for it, for example, the priority of redeveloping Fireside Park, the price tag is about $750,000. Where are we going to get $750,000 even over 20 years? And even when other parks, like the little one by my house, the price tag's $163,000. Goodview Park, the price tag's over $1 million. So how are we going to?
Yeah, that's a really great point. So I think that what WSB did is they really built into the high end and the recommendations. So if the Park Advisory Commission and City Council thinks We don't need a disc golf course, for instance. I think that's one of the recommendations. That doesn't have to be included if residents don't want it. So it's kind of really recommendations at the higher end. If we are seeing a whole park redevelopment, which Fireside would be, it wouldn't just be adding a piece of equipment, that's a total redevelopment. We may have to explore grant opportunities, maybe do something similar to Railroad where we're doing some fundraising. But that's how a park redevelopment would probably end up happening, is we'd have to go to grants and fundraising.
Yeah, because I don't want to see parks beginning to be redeveloped, and then, oops, we ran out of money, and we're just going to leave it hoping we're going to raise money or get a grant or something later on. I'm not really into that. And I'm concerned that, it was just there a minute ago. Yeah, these things happen. Yeah, it was more raising the money, leaving it half unfinished, and then.
And I think to build on Mr. Sachs's point, I think really this is a guide to go through those, and I think it also to those improvements, and also as we determine what we need to maintain in those existing parks. Obviously, there's work that needs to be done and completed on all these parks, and I think as Mr. Sachs identified, there the high-end scope on these, but it'll continue to be a discussion during the council's budget sessions in regards to what kind of dollar amount or what time of priorities is the Park Advisory Commission goes through these and identifies projects or maintenance that's necessary. And I know our Public Works Department reviews our playground equipment and kind of the condition of our parks. So I think it's really is the intent was this when we developed it was to try to have a guiding document and not just have this park has old playground equipment, should this be first? And I think the intent was to really try to get a big picture scope of how we can handle this. And there is a significant financial commitment, even if you're doing not all of the recommendations within the parks, but that will continue to be, as Mr. Sachs said, working through that, and also potentially even through our budget process if the council is interested in levying more dollars towards some of these park improvements. So we'll continue to have those conversations most definitely.
Would there ever be a recommendation about raising our park fees? Because I know in the implementation section, there's the whole very complex formulas for calculating park fees for developers. I believe there was an idea about tweaking that formula. I don't know what staff feeling about that.
Yeah, so that was a suggestion made by WSB to review that formula. I think we said if anything were to come of that, we'd bring that in front of council. Mr. Weck is not here, but he's a little bit more familiar with how the park dedication works. But as of right now, we're not changing. It was just a suggestion that we could explore that to maybe be more in line with how other cities are using that formula.
Okay, that's all I had.
Member Schilling?
I have no questions. I like it.
Okay, Member Onstad?
I too have no question. I'm really excited about this and how it has a vision for the future for the city of Wyoming.
Okay. Mr. Linwood or Mr. Sachs? I think I'll address it to Mr. Linwood. This council, how many, I'm going to call them plans or future plans have we put together as a council? I know we have roads, but can you name kind of how this council looks forward and what we've done over the course of the 7 years?
I think this council particularly, you've really talked about the necessary needs for planning, and we've looked at different things, whether it be our needs assessments for our facilities and planning for the future on that. I think you look at our capital improvement plan overall for our budgetary process, and I think you look at our long-term financial plans. Also, we looked at our capital street improvement plan that we put a tremendous amount of time into every year and updating that and keeping on that. So I think that's been the direction from this council to really try to plan for that future and to be able to perform well in the future, and we don't want to run into future issues. So I think that's something that this council that can be said for definitely, that you all are very, very forward thinking and thoughtful about that.
Yeah, we want to make sure other councils are able to look past what needs to be done as well, right? That we've been there. So this is a prime example of, again, what we've done over the course of the last 6 years, and I think it's done really well. I also know that potential residents We've got so much growth going on here in the city that potential residents or families coming in actually like to see this plan. They actually like to know that the city is forward-thinking on their plans and their trails and their parks. So I think this really fits into all that. WSB did a really good job with it. So I think it just fits really well into what this council has done in the last 6 years. All right, so with that, we do need a motion to approve Resolution 22-1092, a resolution adopting the City of Wyoming Park and Trail Master Plan. I'll move that. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 13, to consider Resolution 22-1093, a resolution receiving the revised feasibility report and setting the public hearing for the 2023 East Viking Boulevard Improvement Project. Mr. Erickson, are you taking this on?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of council. This might look and sound very familiar, and that is because it is. We're looking at this updated feasibility study for a couple of reasons. One, we were not successful in receiving those grant funds that we were hoping to receive, and so the reason we're bringing this back is we are now eliminating a portion of that project. That portion out to Polaris essentially is now no longer part of the project, and we have some limitations on moving forward with a project due to the time that has gone by since we've held our last public hearing. And so we're taking a step back, updated the feasibility study as directed at our last city council meeting, and we've done that, and just want to quickly share the results. And again, it's virtually the same presentation that you've seen about a year ago or so, I'd say probably 10 months ago. And so we'll quickly go through that. Much is the same, and I'll just quick highlight some costs, particularly what the assessment numbers look like today. And again, these are just estimates. We'll base things based on actual bids, and so we're hopeful there's a competitive environment for bidding, and maybe the numbers are a little lower than we identified, and often is the case, but we'll go through right now with the feasibility study for the project. So you can see the portion of the project now that is included in the project. It is from Fenwick, just east of Glen Oak. We've identified and wanted to extend that sidewalk closer to the corner there where there's access for trail facilities that we've heard that were much needed. And so we did continue to keep that east-west portion of the project as part of the project. The remaining portion is excluded, with the exception, we would still propose to bid the box culvert, the bridge over the Sunrise with this project still. And that would not be accessible, but would something be bid with the project. You can see the project schedule. It is kind of starting over here again this evening with receiving the feasibility study. If you're inclined, staff is recommending that we do move forward with setting the public hearing. We've done this previously, but since we have a revised scope, we'll send out a very detailed notice to the entire corridor, including those that were involved last year, just to inform them that that is no longer part of the project, but then invite those that are part of the project to attend another public hearing to, again, hear what the project consists of, what the projected costs are, what the projected schedule looks like, and move on with feedback from property owners, again, on that process. Next slide. Again, if you want me to go through in a lot of detail, I can, but it's all something that we've heard before. But again, back August 4th, we did initially receive that feasibility study for the East Viking Improvement Project. It was reconstructed in 1988, so it has been in service for quite some time. We're all aware of the condition. We've heard from a lot of property owners regarding that condition. There are some sanitary sewer and storm sewer improvements that are required as part of the project. We know that we have a sanitary sewer that is sagging and is creating some issues, and we'll want to do that while the road is reconstructed. Next slide. Just again, highlighting some of the existing conditions. You can see all the patchwork and things that we're all familiar with now with the condition of the roadway. Next slide. The proposed improvements does include replacement of deficient storm sewer pipe and structures. It is a state aid roadway, so there will be some additional storm sewer added. We talked a little bit about replacing the deficient sanitary sewer. There will be new sanitary sewer chimney seals that go around the top portion of the structure to prevent inflow and infiltration.
We are looking at hydrant extensions on a couple of the areas. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, it did? Okay. Fenwick Avenue to Glen Oak again, so newer recycled aggregate base. It'll have a brand new road section throughout, new concrete curb and gutter throughout. We are proposing to replace existing narrow sidewalks. The grade will slightly change throughout. We are proposing new sidewalk on the north side all the way out to the eastern limits of the project. The bituminous pavement section will be consistent with MnDOT design criteria, particularly for heavy construction and heavy commercial vehicle traffic. We know there's garbage hauling, we have Polaris, and so we'll want to make sure we have a very a good, heavy, decent pavement section. Of course, pavement markings, turf restoration. We have talked a little bit about turf restoration. We'll be updating our specs. We do this every year. We work with Mr. Almgeld, what worked well, what didn't, and try to continue to improve our standards that we have in the community. And we've found some holes in some things here recently with drought and what we can do to improve things, so we'll certainly do that here. The portion out to Polaris, the previous project did include the addition of some hydrants all the way out to Polaris. We have some issues with water quality and the ability to flush that main that was constructed back in the, I think, early 2000s. That is something that we would like to keep as part of this project. This too is a non-assessable project cost, but it has been allocated and something that we do feel is really important to take care of with this project. And so those additional hydrants are proposed to remain as part of the project. Next slide. Again, our pavement section, we've had a number of meetings with property owners where we talked about removing the parking, leaving the parking, adding trail, removing parking on one side. And so we've kind of settled in, and no changes from where we left off. We're still keeping that proposed section that we settled in on with the neighborhood. And so no changes there. Next slide. Again, our project funding, 20% assessed for surface and drainage improvements only. Reconstruction assessments based on our standard city street width. Again, so it doesn't involve anything over width. We're not charging for those costs. And again, assessments are based on a unit rather than front footage, consistent with how we've done things previously. And city funds pay the remaining project costs. And whether that's city funds or city funds that are received from MnDOT through our state aid funds, we will likely be looking at a state aid advance like we did previously, but that deadline here is coming up, and we'll bring an agenda item here in the near future requesting advance of our state aid funds for funding the project. Next slide. Again, overall, the blue parcels are those that are accessible with the project. Again, 20% assessed results in an assessment amount of $7,234. That is up about $242 from where we were previously, just again based on kind of current bidding climate where we feel things are. That may change, that may go down, it may go up. Hopefully we're being conservative at this stage and it comes in a little less than that, but just wanted to highlight a slight change in the year that has gone by. Our assessment process does follow Minnesota State Statute Chapter 429. There's some details there that we'll share with property owners, again, regarding that entire process and what rates they have. Interest rate will set at the time of the assessment certification. I'm not sure where that will end up, Mr. Linwood, but that's something that we'll verify and again, apply per our policy. Next slide. Again, more of the details that we'll share with property owners. Again, we're proposing over a 15-year payment period in that 4 to 5% interest range is where we typically have seen. And again, more details related to payoff. Certainly, property owners can pay off immediately within 30 days of the assessment hearing without interest. Otherwise, they will be applied to the property taxes over that 15-year period at that set interest rate. So with that, I'll take any questions that you have, but staff is recommending council receive the feasibility study and set that public hearing for November 15th at 7 p.m.
All right, question councils, we'll start with Member Yeager.
Okay, I noticed this last summer Excel was tearing up the sidewalk
Mhm.
and redid the sidewalk. Is that sidewalk going to be torn up a second time for this project?
Yeah, the sidewalk will be. They did have to replace that. So, XL did need to have that back in, so we did have the continued use of that through this fall and spring prior to construction. They were not able to leave it in that condition. What they were doing out there was relocating the gas mains in advance of our project, so they were out of the way. But in doing so, they did have some damage and restoration items that they needed to take care of until the project moved forward.
But those sidewalks are not adequate for the project that we're going to do.
Yeah, so the location of them likely will change to some degree. Our road profile is changing up and down some, and the widths are proposed with state aid funding to be 5 feet in width rather than the width that they currently stand at. And
Okay, so they.
there are
they-
some
they made
changes.
them narrow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Member Schilling?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Member Onstad?
No questions. You actually, nope. No questions. You actually answered one of the questions I had about continuing with project designs that we had suggested earlier. Sounds like that's the case.
Correct.
Member Luger?
I have no questions.
I have none either. So we do need a motion, we need a motion to approve Resolution 22-1093, a resolution receiving the revised feasibility report and setting the public hearing for the 2023 East Viking Boulevard Improvement Project for November 15th. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 14, to consider a work session on October 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Mr. Linwood.
Mayor Iverson, members of the council, this is a request from staff for a council work session on October 27th at 6 p.m. As you know, council, on the September 20th meeting, you passed for a contract with Kraus Anderson for construction management services for a public safety building, along with Wolg Architects moving forward with contract documents, bidding, and construction administration. Staff has been working with the city's financial consultant, Baker Tilly, to look at different structures for those bonds. We would like to present to council some of those different options and the structures and types of bonds at a work session on the 27th and provide, have council receive that information and provide us feedback. So with that, I would ask council to hold that work session on that date.
Okay, I'm asking council to check October 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on your calendars.
I do have a question, though. Since this is going to be a lot of numbers and financial stuff, would it be possible for the council to get the information before the meeting to review it, rather than being inundated with data and then asked to give feedback or direction?
Right now, we anticipate that we'll receive that information from Baker Tilly on Monday, so that information will go to the council on Monday. This work session would be on a Thursday. I'm not certain that you'll receive full, complete bond runs at this time. Like, they won't have Excel spreadsheets. It'll probably be higher level to give you options, but I think it'll still be complete information and be able to answer council's questions in regards to the different types of structures and different options you have for the
Okay,
project.
as long as I'm getting something rather than being inundated.
Yep, but we'll get it out on Monday, because
Okay,
we'll be out
thank you.
Thursday. Yep.
All right, did everybody check their schedules? 27th works?
Works for me.
That's fine.
Me too.
Okay, all right. I'll make the first motion for the work session on October 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by.
Second.
Second by Member Luger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Council reports, we'll start with Member Luger.
I attended the Park Advisory Commission meeting. Thank you for attending and for those who are watching.
Okay, Member Onstead.
I have no reports. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching.
Member Schilling.
I also have no report. Thank you for those who came and whoever's watching. Have a good night.
Member Yeager.
Okay, I attended the sewer commission meeting, the planning commission meeting, the community turkey dinner. That was good.
I was there.
And, yeah, he was there too. And thank you all for watching, and thank you for coming.
Is that the community turkey dinner that was hosted by the Methodist Church?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So kudos to them. Yeah, all right. And I attended the sewer committee meeting yesterday. Otherwise, that's all I have. at this time, so we'll need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.